Welcome, yogis. Today we are taking it outside to enjoy some of the beautiful weather. So go ahead and find child's pose wherever you may be. Relax into child's pose with the hands extended in front of you, hips sinking heavy onto the heels. And even though today's class is a little bit more on the vigorous side, you are always welcome to come back to this pose. If you need a break, if you need to catch your breath, child's pose is always your friend. Now, as we stay here for several breaths, I want you to take a moment, take the opportunity to set an intention, if that's something that you like to incorporate into your practice. Maybe that intention is for the physical practice today. Maybe it is for your mindset and what you'd like to accomplish after the practice is complete. Or maybe it is a goal outside of your practice. Lots of options for your intention. As you breathe, hopefully you're finding that the hips are settling a little bit more onto the heels. Forehead is resting on the mat or on the hands if you'd like to stack the hands. And notice that the breath is starting to get long, filling not only the chest cavity, but filling the space in the back as well, so that you're breathing in all directions, 360 degrees. Go ahead and start to walk yourself up to tabletop, and then push back so that the hips are resting on the heels. For hero's pose, inhaling the hands up, flip the palms towards the sky, and then gently lean over to one side, lengthening that side all the way from your hip through the ribs and through the shoulder, back to center, and then to the other side. Keep the shoulders open as you breathe and open up the side. And then let's take the hands back for a little bit of a back bend, focusing on the upper back. And then bring the palms forward, rounding the back and stretching in between the shoulder blades. Release, interlock the fingers and draw the knuckles to the ground. Open up the heart to the sky. Maybe lengthen the neck, open the throat. And then uncross the fingers to release. And we'll try that again. Inhale up, flip the palms towards the sky and lean over to one side. Opening up the side body, making sure the shoulders are staying stacked so you can look past that top shoulder. Center, and then leaning to the other side. Continue to breathe, and then come back to center, and pull the palms behind, open up the heart, back bending, focusing on the upper back, and then bring the palms in front of you, round, stretch out in between the shoulder blades. Let the head hang heavy if that feels good. And then again, interlock the fingers, opposite thumb on top this time. Knuckles reach towards the ground, try to plant them into the ground and roll the heart open. Again, a little bit of a back bend here. And then go ahead and release. Bring the hands in front. And we'll start with some cat-cows. So from table, inhale, arch the spine. Exhale, round. Inhale, let the belly fill with air. Exhale, squeeze the belly button towards the spine and round. Keeping the hips stacked over the knees, walk the fingertips forward, dropping the chest towards the ground, coming into puppy dog pose. You can rest your forehead on the ground or a block, or for more intensity, Rest the chin or maybe even the sternum on the ground. Go ahead and walk yourself back up just a little bit so that you can bring the forearms to the ground, and then we're going to go through those cat-cow movements again, except with the forearms planted on the ground. So it might feel a little bit different as you arch and as you round. Maybe you like it more, maybe you like it less. Either way is fine. Just take note for future cat-cow opportunities. Walk the hands back in, coming to table, tuck the toes, and push back for your first down dog. Taking a moment to walk the heels one at a time if that feels good. Going nice and slow. Inhale to one side, exhale to the other. Or if you'd prefer, you can always play with stretching out the toes, rolling up onto the balls of the feet, and then sinking the heels evenly to the ground. We will all meet in down dog, and on your next exhale, gently step forward. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, release, forward fold. Inhale, rise all the way up, palms touch, and then draw the palms to your heart. Squeeze the belly button towards your spine. Inhale. Let's go ahead and hook the thumbs or bring the palms to the sky like we did before. We're going to take those same side bends, one to either side, and then center, finding your back bend, center, and finally rounding forward, really squeezing the abs in to support your back in this curved forward motion, and then release to stand up straight. Inhale to chair. Exhale, chest comes to the thighs, hands come behind your back. Interlock the fingers, and then keeping the chest tucked towards the thighs, lengthen the legs. So if you need to, you can keep the knees bent for the first few forward folds until the hamstrings start to feel warm and open. Go ahead and release the hands to the ground. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, release. Inhale, chair pose. And then exhale to stand. Inhale, sweep the hands up, hook the thumbs or palms to the sky, and reach to one side. Back to center, really engaging the core to protect your spine as you reach. Back to center. Slight back bend if that works for you. If the back bend is too much, you can just work on opening the heart towards the sky and not reaching behind. Go ahead and curl forward, open up the upper back, abs engaged, and then release the hands, sink back, chair pose. Exhale, hinge forward, hands sweep behind. Interlock the fingers behind your back. You can pick the hands up as high and away from your tailbone as you'd like, or you can keep them resting on your tailbone if your shoulders are really tight. Take another breath. And then on your next exhale, we'll gently release the hands. Inhale to flat back. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, chair pose. And then exhale to stand. Hands at your heart center. Inhale, tall mountain. Exhale to one side. Back to center. Other side. Back to center. Reaching behind, pushing the hips forward into an imaginary wall as your counterbalance. This time, sinking the hips down and back right into chair pose. Sweep the hands behind, interlock, connect the upper body with the thighs, and extend the legs as much as works for you. Release the hands to the ground. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, fold, and gently step back to plank. Nice and slow, lower all the way down to the ground. And then we'll rise up into our first cobra, really engaging the upper back. Gently come back down, tent the fingers on either side, and rise up a little higher. Roll yourself back down. And then we're going to do the wave with our shoulders. So one shoulder leads as you roll all the way up, and then roll back down one shoulder at a time. Hands come back next to your sides. Curve up to cobra again, engaging the upper back. And then on your next exhale, push back, down dog. Inhale. Exhale, lengthen the back of the legs. Heels sink heavy towards the ground. Nice, long, flat lower spine. And if that means you have to have slightly bent legs, that's completely fine. Go ahead and step forward. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, forward fold. And then sink the hips down and back, rise up to chair pose. Exhale, come back to your heart center. Inhale, grow tall. Exhale, find that half moon or that side stretch. Center. Other side. Pushing the hips in the opposite direction, not just leaning with the upper body. Center. And then slight back bend. Back to center. Keep the hands high, hips sink down and back, chair pose. And then fold forward, interlocking the fingers behind you and lengthening the legs. Let the head hang heavy. Let the hands hang heavy. Great hamstring opener, great chest opener. Release the hands to the ground and inhale, half lift. Exhale, fold and gently step back, flowing through our first vinyasa. So rising up to cobra or up dog. If you're in up dog, knees are off the ground. And then exhale, use the abs to push back to down dog. Inhale, one foot comes up. Go ahead and allow the hips to roll open. So you're getting a lot of height with that floating leg. And on your next exhale, gently step it forward. Back foot comes flat to the ground and rise up, warrior one. So the heel of the front leg should basically be in the same plane as the heel of the back leg. Release the hands behind and draw the knuckles down the back thigh, opening up the heart, sinking deep into the front leg, and then roll those hands forward for humble warrior. Shoulder floating right next to the knee, not resting on top of the thigh, and the head and the hands weighing heavy towards the ground. If you'd like an extra challenge, go ahead and straighten the front leg for pyramid pose. If you have any problems with your knees or hyperextension, maybe do that with the hands on the ground for support. Go ahead and release to warrior one, and then hands come down to the ground. Inhale, step to plank, and slowly lower down, chaturanga. Inhale, up dog or cobra. Exhale, down dog. Lengthen through the back of the legs, reach through the tailbone, and then the opposite foot comes up, again allowing the hips to roll open as you reach with the toes, but keeping the shoulders square to the ground. On your next exhale, with control, bring that foot through, back heel to the ground, rise up, warrior one. Hips stay square to the front of the mat, sink deep into the front leg, and then when you're ready, interlock the hands behind, draw the knuckles down the back thigh, keeping the openness in the upper body as you gently roll forward, finding that humble warrior, letting the head and the hands hang heavy to the ground. Take another breath, and then on your exhale, gently lengthen the front leg, coming into that unsupported version of pyramid pose. Trying to flatten the upper body across that front leg, and then gently soften the knee and rise up, warrior one. Release the hands to the ground. And inhale, step to plank, flowing through your vinyasa. Cobra is always an option, or you can always skip chaturanga and the back bend altogether and just find down dog. From down dog, we'll take a breath to settle, another breath to lengthen. Make sure the neck is long and you're not holding any tension in your shoulders. And then on your next exhale, gently step forward. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, fold. Inhale, hips sink down and back, rise up, chair pose. And then exhale, come to standing, hands to your heart. Squeeze the abs in to support your back. Inhale, reach to the sky. Exhale, half moon. Opening up that top side, pushing the weight into that opposite foot, and then center. Hands lean to the other side, weight into the opposite foot. Back to center. Push the hips forward, reach the hands behind, and then come back to center. Keeping the hands towards the sky, sink into chair. And then when you're ready, collapse the upper body so that it's connected with the tops of the thighs, interlock the fingers, and then try to keep the chest connected as you straighten the legs. You should be looking at your shins or your knees, not at your toes. Let the back of the neck be nice and long. And then release the hands. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, fold. Step back to plank and flow through whatever version of a vinyasa you are taking today. And from down dog, we'll pick up one foot, reach high towards the sky, and then keeping the kneecap pointed towards the sky, bend the leg. Start to open up the quad and the hip a little bit more. And then on your next exhale, we'll extend and bring that leg underneath, coming into fallen triangle so that your weight is on the inside arch of the back leg and the outside edge of what was the floating leg. You can play with this as much as you want, adding a little bit of a back bend or a heart opener. Go ahead and release back to split down dog. Bend the knee. Open up the front of the leg, engage the back of the leg, and then this time we'll step it through. Back heel towards the ground, windmill the hands up, warrior two. Make sure that now the heel of the front foot is intersecting the arch of the back foot. Reach through the fingertips, and on your exhale, reverse your warrior. Inhale, extend the front leg, which we don't always do, but we are today. Keep the extension in the front leg and fold yourself forward into triangle pose. Trying to keep a lot of length on that bottom side. We have a tendency to collapse that bottom side. Go ahead and use your core to come back upright, warrior two, and then windmill the hands to the ground and step back to plank. Exhale, flow through chaturanga, cobra, up dog. Exhale, down dog. Opposite side, pick up the foot, reach first with the toes, and then keep the kneecap pointed towards the sky and bend the knee to open up the front of the quad, front of the hip a little bit more. Exhale, come into your side plank and drop that floating foot to the ground for fallen triangle. Again, you can have that back bend or you can just reach straight to the sky. On your next exhale, come back to split down dog, adding the bend in the knee, engaging the hamstrings to help open up the front of the body, not just using gravity. And then bring the foot through and windmill up, warrior two. Sink deep into your front leg. Open up the heart, open up the hips. Everything is in one single plane. And on an exhale, slide the back hand down the back thigh, reversing your warrior. Extending the front leg on an inhale, and on an exhale, come back up to upright and shift your weight out over that front leg. And then bring your hands to the shin or the ankle, ground, block, whatever works for you, but making sure you're not collapsing the bottom side. On an exhale, come back up to Warrior Two using the strength of your core. Take an inhale and exhale, roll down. Inhale to plank and exhale, flow through your vinyasa, whatever that may be. Everyone makes their way to down dog. Take a long breath. Lengthen the back of the legs, lengthen through the tailbone. Let the heels weigh heavy towards the ground. One more breath. And on an exhale, gently step forward. Inhale, flat back, reaching through the crown of the head. Try not to have a kink in the neck. Release, and then we're going to come into chair. And exhale to stand, hands to your heart. Inhale, hands rise up. Hook the thumbs or palms to the sky, side bend. Back to center, and then to the other side. Back to center. Reach behind or just focus on that lift, drawing the heart towards the sky, center, and then find chair pose again. Fold forward, hands come behind, interlock the fingers, chest connects with the quads, and then extend the legs. Maybe start to notice that you're getting a little bit more length in the legs. Starting to feel a little bit more comfortable. Release the hands and half lift. And then exhale, release, step back, flow through your vinyasa. From down dog, inhale, pick up one foot. Exhale, start to bend the knee, but I want you to pretend like there's a 10-pound weight on that foot that is weighing heavy, 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 until the foot connects with the ground for Wild Thing. Open the heart towards the sky. Great option if you don't feel comfortable with wheel pose. Carefully come back to split down dog and then exhale, step that floating foot all the way through. Gently drop the back knee towards the ground to come up into a low lunge. You can bring the hands over the head, or you can try to really sink deep into that front leg in order for the fingertips to brush the ground. Go ahead and come back over the front leg and shift the hips back for half splits, folding out over that front leg, using some blocks if you need to. Again, if you have a tendency to hyperextend, maybe focus on keeping a slight bend in the knee. Go ahead and soften the knee forward, come back to that low lunge, and then we're going to take a quad stretch. This quad stretch is challenging because it really challenges your balance. If there's a different quad stretch that you'd prefer, that's fine. Maybe you prefer a twisted option, or you can do it here. Same hand to that back leg. Same hand in the same direction as the front leg. Again, really will challenge your balance. Gently release. And both hands this time will come to the inside of that front leg for lizard pose. Now maybe you stay on your palms, or maybe you'd like to drop down onto your elbows. And if you'd like an extra challenge, roll out onto the outside edge of the front leg, allowing the knee to drop open, which is going to be much more challenging in the hip of that front leg. And then if you'd like, you can take a quad stretch again. And notice how this one feels different. You should feel a little bit more stable, but it might not be as intense of a quad stretch. Just depends on your body. Maybe more of a heart opener. Gently release. Come back to center. Come back to lizard pose. And then rise up onto the hands. And we'll step back to split down dog. Go ahead and take Wild Thing again if you'd like, or just focus on opening up the hip with a bent knee. And then we're going to flow through our vinyasa and maybe keep that floating leg up through your chaturanga just to make it a little bit more challenging. Totally optional. From down dog, opposite side, inhale the foot to the sky, and then bend the knee and let it weigh heavy, heavy, heavy until it touches the ground and your other hand comes up off the ground, opening the heart, opening the hip flexors. On your next exhale, gently come back to split down dog. Take an inhale to settle, and then exhale. Bring that foot through, right in between the hands. Back knee connects to the ground. Low lunge. Now you can take the variation with the hands towards the sky, or you can reach the fingertips towards the ground, lengthening the sides of the neck, releasing any tension or stress that you may be holding there. And then shift forward, hands frame that front foot, and extend that front leg half splits, folding the upper body over and on top of that front leg. So think about bringing your belly button towards the thigh, chest towards the knee, nose to the shin, so that you're keeping a lot of length in the spine as you fold forward. Soften the knee, shift forward again, and then let's try that quad stretch. Again, it's very challenging to hold your balance, and it may be really intense on the kneecap, so if you need to add some extra cushion, it's completely fine. And you can always keep that front hand on the thigh for more stability. Take another breath here. Open up the quad, open up the hips, and then gently release. Both hands are going to come to the inside of that front leg for lizard pose. You can stay on the hands or come down to the forearms. Either way, I want you to think about lengthening through the crown of the head rather than curving and dropping the head in order to touch the ground. So if that means you need to come back up onto the hands in order to find the length in the spine, that's perfectly fine. If you'd like that extra challenge, roll the weight to the outside edge of that front leg, toes pointed out at a 45-degree angle, sink deep into the hips. And then if you'd like to take it a little further, you can twist towards that front leg and maybe pick up the back knee for a quad stretch. And again, this should feel a little bit more stable when it comes to balance, but you might prefer the actual stretch from our low lunge variation. Wherever you are, gently release, come back to lizard, make your way up to your hands and then come to plank, maybe adding that extra challenge by keeping the foot lifted as you flow through chaturanga. Inhale, back bend of your choice. Exhale, down dog. Take a breath or two here. Relax the shoulders away from the ears, lengthen the sides of the neck, and then gently step forward. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, fold. Inhale, chair pose. And then rise up to standing, hands come to your heart. And we're going to do just a little bit of balance, which was especially challenging for me being on the grass. So if you struggle with your balance, a firmer surface is always going to be better. We'll take a simple tree pose. So you can bring the sole of the foot to the calf or to the inner thigh, but make sure there's no weight on your knee. We want to make sure we're not putting any pressure on that knee. And then we're going to stay here for a little while and take a mini meditation. So I want you to focus on stillness. If that means you need to take a slightly easier version of tree pose, that's perfectly fine. Find stillness. Find focus that comes with trying to be still. And at first, it might be a little frustrating, but as you start to feel more comfortable with that stillness, maybe you've had to make a few physical adjustments in order to accommodate the stillness, you'll start to find peace in that stillness. Very quietly and calmly switch to tree pose on the other side. Make a decision about how challenging you want the physical pose to be, with the understanding that the focus is on stillness. Just breathe and feel the peace, maybe the sense of accomplishment that comes with being still and being accepting of this moment, especially when there is no action required. In fact, the requirement is no action. We'll take a couple more breaths here. And then when you're ready, gently release, coming back to standing. And then turn to the long side of your mat, and we'll go ahead and take a nice big step. Inhale, open the hands wide, maybe a little back bend, and then hands back to your heart. Inhale, maybe a little bit bigger back bend. Exhale, back to your heart. Inhale, even bigger. If you can drop into wheel from here, be my guest. Otherwise, come back to center and fold forward. So your feet should be parallel with the short edges of the mat. Go ahead and walk the hands out in front of you so that you're taking a wide-legged down dog. Really let the heart open. And then gently walk the hands back underneath you and twist open to one side, trying to twist with just the upper body, keeping the hips square to the ground. Now we're going to exaggerate by taking that floating hand across to the opposite foot and twisting the other direction. Maybe bringing your gaze towards the sky. Deeper hamstring stretch, deeper twist. Come back to center. We'll take the easy twist to the other side. One hand right underneath you, opposite hand towards the sky, creating a T, and then take that floating hand all the way to the opposite foot and open up for that deeper, more exaggerated twist. Hips are still square, as though you could put a cup right on your tailbone, be nice and flat, and then come back to center. And if tripod headstand is in your practice, feel free to rise up into that inversion. If it is not in your practice, just hang out here with the elbows at a 90-degree angle so that you're drawing the crown of the head towards the ground and maybe the weight slightly into the balls of the feet. If you are in the headstand, very, very carefully come out of it, and we'll all rise up to a flat back. Exhale, fold. Hands can come to your hips and rise all the way up. Gently make your way back to the front of your mat. Hands come back to your heart center. Inhale, chair pose. I know you thought we were done with these. Exhale, fold, forward fold. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, release back to forward fold. And then we're going to take it into a much more intense forward fold. So bend the knees, wrap the hands around the calves, and extend the legs as much as you can while keeping the forearms wrapped solidly around your calves. Go ahead and release. And then we're going to come into a little bit more balance. So find warrior 3. If this is too much for you, you can keep the hands on the ground. And then go ahead and shift your chest back towards the top of the thigh of the standing leg. Floating leg goes straight to the sky as much as you can for standing splits. And then take that floating leg to the ground. And we're going to come into a seated twist, wrapping one elbow around the knee that's pointed towards the sky, inhaling to lengthen the spine, exhaling to twist. If a bound twist is in your practice, feel free to take that option. You can either bind through the legs, or if you have the range of motion in your shoulder, you can actually bind around the knee and the shin. Either way, focus on inhaling, lengthening, exhaling, twisting. Go ahead and release. Take a brief counter twist. And then we're going to take that top knee and stack one shin on top of the other. Inhale towards the sky, and then exhale, reach the hands out in front and fold over the stacked shins. Notice how this feels in your hips. This may be very intense if you have tight hips, or you may find it very, very peaceful if you don't have tight hips. Breathe and feel the breath fill the back cavity, and then gently rise up, uncross the legs, and find boat pose. Engaging the abs, rolling the shoulders away from the ears and the shoulder blades down the back. And then we're going to come to that stacked position again. Now, if you feel comfortable in pigeon, you can take the top leg and swing it behind you. If you do not feel comfortable in pigeon, you can go ahead and fold forward with those stacked shins again. Or you can always take reclined pigeon. Feel free to focus on staying upright or folding forward. If you fold forward, you're going to get a much deeper stretch in the hip of the front leg, the hip and the glute of the front leg. This is a more restorative version of pigeon, if you can call it restorative. I think it's still very challenging. Or you can come upright like I am and engage the back muscles. Maybe lift the hands towards the sky. And then if you would like that quad stretch that we were practicing earlier, pick up the back foot. You can flip your grip and push the toes towards the hips. It's also a really great heart opener. You can take mermaid. You can take king pigeon. Or you can do like I am, which is a variation with both hands wrapped around the ankle, pushing the foot into the hands to open up the heart. Lots of options here. I'm going to give you quite a few moments to play and maybe try some different variations of pigeon. I definitely prefer the more active versions as opposed to the restorative, but you can make up your own mind. Wherever you are, gently release and bring that front leg back to floating. Give yourself a couple of hip circles, which may feel really good after pigeon. And then extend the leg, split down dog. And we're going to have the option for an arm balance here. So if EPK is in your practice, feel free to try that option. If it's not, you can always just focus on half crow, bringing that floating leg to rest on top of your elbow, basically. We'll all meet back in down dog, and then take that same sequence on the other side. So inhale, step forward, flat back. Exhale, fold. Inhale, rise up chair. Sink the hips down and back, and then come to your heart center. Inhale, chair pose. Exhale, fold, forward fold. Head is heavy. Inhale, flat back. And exhale, release. Finding the intense forward fold first, wrapping the forearms around the calves, hugging your upper body so it's connected with the tops of the thighs. Take another breath, and then release your hands, picking up the opposite foot and finding warrior 3 on the other side. Again, if you struggle with your balance, feel free to keep the fingertips on the ground or press pause and move to a firmer surface. One more breath in warrior 3. And then the hands come to the ground and that floating leg reaches towards the sky, half splits. Really squeeze with the hamstring and the glute of the floating leg to lift. Don't just rely on your flexibility. You really have to have a lot of strength in that pose as well. And then the floating leg is going to come down to the ground for our seated twist, wrapping the elbow around the knee, or preparing to bind. But again, always focusing on lengthening the spine during the inhale and exhale to ease deeper into the twist. We want to make sure that we're always twisting with a aligned spine so that there's no unnecessary pressure on the discs in your back. You can twist freely. Take another breath, maybe deepening your twist a little bit more, and then go ahead and release, twisting to the other side, a brief counter twist. And then take that top knee and stack the shin on top of the bottom leg. Inhale, hands to the sky. Exhale, fold. So again, if your hips are open, this might feel really peaceful. If it does, I want you to focus more on the breath and feel how the breath expands the space in between the back part of your rib cage, so that you're using your breath not just in the chest, but you're also breathing into the back. Go ahead and release, come up to upright and uncross the legs for boat pose, rolling the shoulders away from the ears, finding that nice V with the body, and then release and prepare for pigeon pose. So again, whatever that may mean for you, maybe you keep the shins stacked, or you swing that top leg around behind you, making sure that both hips are equidistant from the ground. So if your hips are really tight and your hips are very high from the ground, you can always put a bolster or a block underneath your hip for support. And then you can stay upright or you can fold forward for that more restorative or yin version of the pose. Again, feeling the breath expand in the back. And if you'd like to take a more active approach, rise back up, engage the back, and take away the support of the hands by reaching the hands up over the head, really strengthening the back to hold that upright position. And now we play. You can start with just the quad stretch. You can take mermaid. Maybe you have a really strong back and open hips, and so you can go from that overhead position and reach right and grab a hold of the foot for king pigeon. It is a very, very challenging option, but it is an option for you. Or if you'd like to focus on the heart opener, you can do like I am, with a double hold around the ankle, pushing the foot into the hands to actually open up the heart and create more of a back bend. Less of a quad stretch, more of a back bend. Take a few more moments to play with the many, many different variations of pigeon pose. Making sure that whatever you are trying, that you are able to breathe through it. There is no version of a pose so important that you should sacrifice your breath. Wherever you are, hands come back down to the ground, tuck the toes of that back foot, and rise up to split down dog. Take a few hip circles if that feels good. Rolling through any uncomfortability or tightness or leftover tension from pigeon. Couple circles each direction, and then we're going to try that arm balance again. So you can just go ahead and take that half crow, connecting the knee towards your tricep, or you can go ahead and float. Feel free to pause and practice as much as you'd like. Otherwise, we will meet back in down dog. And then we're going to start to slow things down. So gently release the knees to the ground and roll back to a seated position. And then we're going to roll down one vertebrae at a time, engaging the abs. Once you are fully reclined, go ahead and windshield wiper the knees side to side to neutralize the spine. And then we're going to come into some back bends. So bring the knees back towards the sky. Walk the heels in, soles of the feet connected to the ground, and push the hips up one vertebrae at a time, finding bridge pose. Maybe interlock the fingers underneath the body to open up the heart a little bit more. And try to make sure that the knees do not splay out to the sides. We want to keep the knees about the same distance as the hips. If you'd like to take this a little bit further, try walking the hands underneath the tailbone so that the lower back is resting on the palms and the elbows are connected with the earth. And then if that feels okay on your wrists, you can try extending the legs. It is pretty intense on your wrists, so if that's not a good option for you, just stay in bridge pose. And then whenever you're ready, we'll come back down and tick-tock the knees side to side again. So not a full twist, just enough to release any tension from the lower back and give yourself a break before we try another back bend. So now you can go ahead and stick with bridge if that works for you, or you can tuck the palms over the head underneath the shoulder blades and push up onto the forearms. So instead of going straight to wheel, you can try this more intense back bend that focuses on a heart opener. Maybe try challenging yourself by bringing one foot towards the sky, reaching with the toes, maybe a few ankle circles, and then gently make your way to the other side. Again, you can flex and point. Definitely an extra challenge. And then when you're ready, slowly roll down one vertebrae at a time. And we'll take that tick-tock one more time. Feet wide, knees drop to one side, so one knee is about the same distance as the opposite ankle. And then tick-tock the knees to the other side. One more time. Back bend of your choice. Bridge, that half wheel variation, or full wheel with the hands on the ground, making sure that the knees are not splaying open, maybe pushing the weight so that the shoulders stack more over the wrists, or maybe letting the weight come more into your heels, just playing with how that feels. You can lift one leg at a time if that feels good, or hold steady. And then wherever you are, slowly roll down, and this time we'll bring the knees to the chest and give yourself a rock side to side. Massage out the back. Always, always listen to your back during those back bends. If it's too much, it is not worth it. You don't have to do wheel to be a yogi. Go ahead and come back to center, and we'll reach the feet straight to the sky. You can stay here, or if you'd like to go into one of the closing inversions, you can come into plow or shoulder stand, or if you'd like to choose headstand again instead, that's fine. If you're in plow, go ahead and bring the hands to your tailbone for support and come up into your shoulder stand. And we'll be here for a few breaths, giving you the opportunity to play, maybe rolling the ankles, pointing the toes, whatever feels good in your shoulder stand, but making sure that you are not looking around. Whatever you decide to do it safely by protecting the neck. And then with control, one vertebrae at a time, roll back down and release the feet to the ground, pushing up into the elbows, dropping the crown of the head to the ground for the counter stretch fish pose. Opening up the throat, maybe adding a challenge by floating the feet up off the ground. Remember, most of the weight is in your elbows, just a little bit of weight in the crown of your head, really focusing on lengthening the throat and not allowing the back of the neck to have any kind of kink. Wherever you are, release, bring the knees to your chest, and rock side to side. Keep one knee towards your chest and extend the opposite leg out. Squeeze that knee towards the chest and then gently cross the floating knee across the body, coming into our final few poses, twisting. If you just have to have a bit more of a challenge, you can always try Cupid's arrow here. So that top leg is straight and the bottom leg is bent so that you're grabbing a hold of the foot behind your back. Whichever twist you're in, go ahead and come back to center and then bring that floating leg as straight as you can towards your upper body and then switch using the strength of your core. Go ahead and roll back down, soften the knee, squeeze the knee to your chest. And then take that bent knee, and cross it across the body, trying to keep both shoulders connected to the ground. And then if you like that extra challenge, try Cupid's arrow, straightening the top leg, grabbing a hold of the big toe or the outside edge of the foot, and then bending the bottom leg, grabbing a hold of that bottom foot and stretching out the quad. Again, always make sure that you can breathe. If you're in a more advanced pose but you can't breathe, go ahead and come out of it. Gently release, both feet straight to the sky, and then we'll soften the knees to the outside edge of the rib cage. Grab a hold of the outside edge of the foot for happy baby. And you can stay steady and centered in the middle of your mat, or you can rock side to side, whatever feels best on your back. Gently release, soles of the feet come together, and then gently extend the legs out for our final pose, Shavasana. Take a few breaths in Shavasana to get comfortable, and then to settle. And once you've settled, I want you to focus on having that same stillness that we practiced during tree pose. Shavasana is obviously a much less physically demanding pose than anything else we've practiced, but one might argue it is the most mentally and emotionally demanding pose of any class. So continue to focus on stillness and start to notice how that feels. Are you able to find peace? Maybe a little bit of contentedness in this final resting pose? Or do you feel very antsy? If you're outside, maybe you feel actual ants. If that's the case, feel free to brush them off. Otherwise, focus in on that stillness. I always invite you to stay in Shavasana for as long as you would like, as long as you have time for. But if you are ready to close out your practice, you can go ahead and start to reawaken the body. Wiggle the fingers, wiggle the toes, tick-tock the hands and the knees, and then start to make your way back up to upright. Maybe that is by rolling over to your favorite side, or maybe you're going to rock back and forth, up and down the spine to come to a comfortable seated position. Once you have found that seated position of your choice, bring your hands to your heart. Thank you so much for sharing your practice with me today. Namaste.